This Saturday, the lights shine brighter on Bloomington. The nation's watching as the number 2 ranked Hoosiers step onto the national stage of FOX Big Noon Kickoff. But rolling into town is a hungry pack of Bruins, led by quarterback Nico Iamaleava, winners of 3 straight and ready to bring the heat. Can Indiana stay perfect? Or will UCLA spoil the party on national TV? It's the Hoosiers, it's the Bruins, and the whole country is watching. This is the Hoosier Tailgate, and it starts now.
And picked off the sideline. Indiana, Asbury, walking them down. Woo! IU, America, they got a football team now.
Welcome in, everybody. This is the Hoosier Tailgate, and tonight we got a special one for you as the number 2 ranked Indiana Hoosiers are on the national spotlight on the big stage with FOX Big Noon Kickoff rolling into Bloomington this weekend for Saturday's matchup against the UCLA Bruins. It's going to be a historic week for this program, a chance to show the nation that Indiana football isn't just winning, they are for real. Welcome in, everybody. I'm the host, the Coach Shannon Griffith, and welcome again this evening as we look at this UCLA Bruin team that is coming in here on a heater. 3 in a row since the coaching change from Deshaun Foster, interim coach Tim Skipper, and a change at both the coordinators. And this UCLA Bruin team has rattled off 3 wins in a row in historic fashion. They first took on Penn State, beat them at home, the first game after the Northwestern loss, and the last game Deshaun Foster was the head coach. Then they went to Michigan State in East Lansing and beat the Spartans there in East Lansing. And then last week, when Indiana was playing Michigan State later that evening, UCLA used a last-minute drive to put themselves into field goal position, hitting it as a walk-off and beating the Maryland Terps there in the Rose Bowl. And they're coming in with a lot of confidence, and they've got a quarterback that not only can sling it, he can run it too. And he is a big fella too, 6'6", right now, lanky, tall body and a live arm, and he can get it done on all 4 factors of the field, and he is right now throwing it really well. Cignetti has mentioned this during the week, during the press conference. He rarely explained where this UCLA Bruin team is since Coach Skipper was appointed the interim head coach, rushing for over 230 yards a game, 38-plus points and such, and a defense that has rejuvenated themselves. And right now, with what they have done is really simplified what they had been doing into packages that they could understand and high efficiency at running it. So buckle up, because this weekend, this one may put the Hoosiers on a upset alert in Bloomington, as the national spotlight and media is already trying to say the Hoosiers are in danger. We're going to take a good hard look at it tonight. We'll find out what we think about this ball game on Saturday in Bloomington. Right now, Indiana in a historic climb, 7-0, couldn't match their best record to date with a win Saturday. They've already climbed to number 2 in the AP poll and coaches poll alike. Some people already have Indiana as the number one ranked team because they have more significant wins on their resume than do the Ohio State Buckeyes. Because when you look at that aspect of things, Indiana beat a number 9 Illinois team, then went to Oregon and beat an Oregon team that was ranked number 2 in the country at the time. Ohio State opened up against Texas, what everybody thought was a huge ball game. And now we're finding out that Texas may not be as good as those early polls would have indicated they were. So right now, that's why you see some pollsters out there that have Indiana the number 1 ranked team when it comes to the college football playoffs. And that is going to be coming out here, I believe, in another week, those projections. Outside of that, Indiana's offense has been running well, averaging almost 500 yards a game. Fernando Mendoza has firmly established himself as a Heisman Trophy candidate. The three receivers, Surratt, Williams, and Cooper, may be the best trio in college football right now. And add into that Kalen Black and Roman Hemby. And right now you can see why this offense has been rolling so far through the first 7 weeks of the season. Let's take a quick look here of what's happening on the national stage as we get prepared for this Saturday's game. Right now, FOX Big Noon Kickoff is going to be in the house for the national broadcast. Only the second time, I believe, that Indiana is on the FOX Big Noon Kickoff. And they will be there on the campus in Bloomington. And I know one coach that is already pretty fired up about it. That's Urban Meyer. He's paid a full compliment, not only to Coach Cignetti, but to the entire Indiana coaching staff, as he feels they may be the best coached team, not only in the Big Ten, but in the nation, according to him. So that is something to savor for a little bit. Also, before I jump any further ahead, I want to thank you for joining me here this evening. If you're with us in chat, you have a question, by all means, feel free to ask away. If we have a chance to get to the answer to you, we will. We like for everybody to participate. Also, if you go to my Twitter page at Hoosier Tailgate, there in the bio part of it, there's a Linktree link that has a link to all the affiliates that we are associated with at the tailgate. One of them being a relationship with Fanatics. And there you will find a link to the Hoosier Tailgate storefront with Fanatics, and go there to get all your game day apparel as they are updating their inventory, as well as different aspects as we roll into the different seasons of the year. Now that we've firmly planted ourselves into the fall weather this week, already I'm regretting not having that warmth that we had a week ago at this time. But we appreciate anything that you would happen to do with one of our affiliates. If you would happen to buy something from them, we do get a little bit a commission from that. We roll it back in. Also, get over to the Hoosier.com to get your subscription, still 50% off, then 50% off for the rest of the year. That first 50% is for the first month. You'll get everything you need to know, from recruiting to game day environment, who's visiting from the recruiting aspect, as On3 and Rivals are now together. Very updated to list, as it is very fluctuating each and every day, with Penn State having a bunch of their kids decommit. Indiana's already had, I believe, 2 in off of that list, and more to come this weekend. But you're going to get loads of information there, not just football, basketball as well. Great group of guys that are over there at thehoosier.com that do the vast majority of the writing, and they do it quite well. So get over there, get your subscription today, and we thank you well in advance if you choose to do that. Looking here, let's see who we got here. Mission Forward says, I'm a little bit worried about this one. Well, you would not be human if you're human if you weren't a little bit worried, because when you get this far into the season and you are the hunted, every game gives you a little bit of that nervous stomach. Have to play smart, absolutely. And let's go down here. Coach, first time. Appreciate you taking time to talk. Impressed. Emailing from the 46815. Tim, appreciate you coming on over to join us tonight as I get a little bit tongue-tied. But appreciate you coming in. And yes, this Bruins team is a very impressive group ever since the change from Coach Deshaun Foster to Coach Tim Skipper, who was a senior analyst off the field. And they changed the coordinators offensively and defensively. They simplified what they were doing on both sides of the ball, and they found themselves. And when you got a quarterback like Nico, who can do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, it's a very dangerous combination, and he's playing quite well right now for the Bruins. But Big Noon in the house this weekend, so keep that in mind if you're making your trip down to Bloomington. Expected a sellout crowd again, so plan as they would say, for your trip into Bloomington. And if you're coming from ways away, by all means, download the Tailgate podcast from one of your favorite podcast platforms and give yourself something to listen to on the way down as well, down to Bloomington or your tailgate spot. ESPN's Big Ten FPI rankings for week 9. We're going to jump into that here. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Here we go. I think it's this. And hopefully you guys can all see this with some clarity, because ESPN's, they need to redo their website because this white backdrop doesn't do them any favors. But the FPI index of something that I do not understand too much, but it's a matrix that is out there, so you can't just turn a blind eye to it. I'm not overly fond of it because I don't quite understand how it all is wrapped up into one and gets everything. But we'll go through it here and I'll show you what I mean. Right now, as you can see, the top 3 teams, Ohio State, Oregon, and Indiana, in the FPI index right now are the 3 top teams. Interesting to see that Oregon is in front of Indiana this week, based upon the FPI, even though that Indiana has beaten the Ducks. After that, you see the Trojans, Michigan, and even the Penn State Nittany Lions, who are 3 and 4 overall, which is quite interesting. And then if you look all the way down here, there's where the UCLA Bruins are at with their 3 and 4, and kind of where they stack up in terms of their FPI rating. Indiana 22.9, 24.3 for Oregon, 27.2. Then when you kick over to the resume side of things, the best resume in the Big Ten, according to the FPI index, is the Indiana Hoosiers. Their strength of record is rated a number 2. And you can see right now what their strength of schedule remaining, is at a 30, remaining 43. And you can see why some of those wins that we were discussing earlier has boosted the Hoosiers in the Big Ten in terms of their resume. As always, this is always fluid. It changes week to week based upon who you play, who you have left, and how you did against the opponent you were playing on Saturday. And depending on whether or not that opponent has an overall win-loss record, ranked, unranked, things of that magnitude. But when you look at straight resumes, which is what you would think the College Football Playoff Committee would take into account, you've got this setup where Indiana, you can say Ohio State and Oregon are firmly in the college football playoffs. And then after that, it's kind of a hodgepodge of teams that are potentially fighting for position into the college football playoffs. Efficiencies, and, some of this stuff, I had to get an understanding of it too. let's see here. It tells me this incorporates your offense, defense, special teams into a single schedule adjusted measure of per play efficiency on overall. Right now, if you look at it, Ohio State and Indiana are the top 2 10s in the Big Ten when it comes to efficiencies. Offensively, again, you can see there has been some where Indiana and Ohio State efficiency offensively is down a little bit. Defensively, Indiana and Ohio State are 1 and 3. Indiana is 12th overall efficiency on special teams. And that is one side of the ball that they've done quite well, especially early on in the year when that was a key component for Indiana in terms of scoring or setting up scores with their games. They had some blocked punts that went for a touchdown. Boyd has returned one for a touchdown. And so far, they've done quite well, and they really haven't had to punt that much, which is another good thing. But right now, when you look at all this from a Big Ten perspective, FPI, efficiencies, resume and stuff, this is the stuff that the committee will use as part of their discussion. Doesn't mean it's the end all be all. But the biggest thing that I always said, especially based upon last year, it seemed like they went to a lot of this resume stuff of where a team stood in terms of the strength of record, their power index, and their strength of I think it's the strength of opponent's schedule. And remaining, there's a lot of different schedules that get involved, and that's why it's a little bit hard to quite comprehend on a grander scheme. But it also takes your ranking into position. As you can see right now, there's only 5 teams in the Big Ten that are actually ranked. In the SEC, there are as many as 9. But you must take into account not many of those have played each other, which are coming up on these last few weeks of the season. So when you look at everything from that perspective, at this point in time, that snapshot, not have playing, UCLA yet, this would be through the 7 games that Indiana's played. They are doing respectively well at this point in time when you consider them against other components into the Big Ten as well as the national scene. Take it for what it's worth. It's a data point. It kind of lets you know how Indiana stacks up against other competition within the Big Ten Conference. It can also look at it from a national level as well. So in this respect, at this point in time, Indiana's sitting quite well. Now, they continue to win, the better that's going to be. What they can't afford to do is take a bad loss or a game that is tighter than it should be based upon those metrics. But we'll let that be what it is. Also, in the world of this is what I was saying there with that FPI, it will also surprise you based upon that page 1 that I showed you where Indiana was number 3 behind a 1-loss Oregon team, a team that Indiana had beaten head-to-head, because usually head-to-head is the most relevant metric that one uses. And then when you flipped it to the resume component, all of a sudden Indiana's the best resume in the Big Ten, in some respects nationally, because of who they have beaten to date, 2 of them in the top 10. So that's where it kind of fluctuates in a lot of different ways in that respect. On the MGM bet line for Saturday with this ball game, right now, Indiana is a 24.5 point favorite it has fluctuated. It's gone down by a point. Over under at 53.5. So there is the spread. I was a little surprised of the number of points that Vegas had spotted UCLA, considering where they had been production-wise the last 3 weeks. But as of today, that is the overall spread of this game on Saturday. And you always wonder, what does Vegas know? And earlier this season, it was kind of the same thing, because you thought Indiana, I think it was the Illinois game, that Indiana was going to be in this dogfight, and they end up blowing Illinois out. And I do want to think back then that Indiana may have been a 3-touchdown favorite, if I'm not mistaken, in that ball game. So Vegas always knows something. You got to give them some credit, because sometimes you kind of shake your head at it all. But anyway, Indiana and this UCLA team is, getting this national spotlight Saturday. And again, this is a team, we've talked about it before as well, is a West Coast team coming to the Midwest to play a noon kickoff East Coast time, but a 9 a.m. kickoff West Coast time. UCLA is flying out tomorrow, so they will be in place Thursday evening, practice somewhere Friday, get a walkthrough at the stadium, so they get themselves all acclimated to the Midwest time zone. Now, they've been here once before, like I said, against Northwestern, and a couple weeks ago against Michigan State, so they're well versed in what it takes to play here in the Midwest. The Northwestern game was their other noon kickoff, 9 a.m. kickoff, West Coast time. The Michigan State game would have been a 3:30 kick, but for them, that had been a 12:30. So that dynamic, take it for what it's worth. I don't know if it makes that much difference on when a team plays or not. I do think the West Coast teams sometimes are at a disadvantage when you think about them having to play a quote unquote 9 o'clock football game on their time. So in that respect, playing it is what it is, as they would say. Let's take a look here at, let's see here. That's not what I wanted. What did I want? That's not what I wanted either. Let's see. Hold on here for 1 second. I want to see if I can get the schedule for this weekend's games, because I thought I had here, but maybe I don't. Let's see if I can find them real quick. A lot of good games within the Big Ten this week, as it will be a very important week when it comes to that. And I'll get it set up here real quick. Of course, Indiana being the one that will kick everything off on Saturday with the Big Noon Kickoff extravaganza there in Bloomington. And but there are other key games coming into the play this weekend. Let's see here if I can get this pulled out. There we go. Saturday, of course, we've got ours, Fox. Remember, I said it opened at 25.5. It's down to 24. Then you have Northwestern at Nebraska. That's going to be an interesting ball game. Northwestern really only has one loss in the Big Ten, and the Big Ten right now, coming off that big win at Penn State. Nebraska kind of laid an egg last Friday night in Minnesota. So that will be a big game for them. Nebraska 8.5. Rutgers and Purdue, two winless teams in the Big Ten right now. Rutgers has been probably the most surprised team, figuring that had thought they were going to be a little bit better than what they have been. But right now they're a 1.5 favorite over Purdue. I was surprised Purdue got shut out by Northwestern a week ago. I don't know if Purdue is kind of running into that midseason brick wall with the limited number of players that he's, kind of got at their disposal, but we'll see how that one plays out. Number 23, Illinois at Washington. That should be a dandy of a game. 3.5 point spread right now for Washington. Iowa, Minnesota. That's a big rivalry game there in Iowa City. Currently, Iowa 8.5. Wisconsin at number 6. Oregon. Wisconsin just cannot do anything right now. They are searching for a lot of things there in Madison as they head to the West Coast to take on Oregon as a 32.5 dog there. And then the 7:30 game, the big rivalry in the Big Ten this weekend, Michigan takes on Michigan State in East Lansing. Michigan right now, 14.5 point favorite. And Michigan State, like I said, really it's not that bad of a ball club. They're just defensively right now, just giving up way too many big plays in that regard. Let me see here. Don't want to miss anything. Well, you say on some, I don't necessarily call them sneaky, Robert. What they do is they'll run some things that take advantage of where you may have your weakness, but more importantly, if they can put the ball in Nico's hands as a runner, they will. And he is just as effective as a runner than anyone they have in the backfield. He's already their leading rusher on the season as of right now. Let's see here. Well, yeah, if you're talking about they have run 2 fake punts on the season to gain extra possessions. So Indiana will definitely have to be on their guard Saturday, just from the standpoint of that aspect of things. So you got to be aware on any type of field goal, any type of kickoff situation where they may try a surprise onside. They're going to try to gain a possession if they can. Now, since they've already faked the punt twice, you still got to be aware of it. It's the time when you think that maybe they're going to just kick a field goal, that they pull out something there in a certain position on the field, or a surprise onside kick. So in this game Saturday, in the special teams realm, Indiana is going to have to do a great job of what we call clearing all kicks, meaning do not retreat too soon on a kickoff where you leave a void where a kicker could dribble it down the field. Make sure that you're containing anything in the punt game or the field goal game so that nothing gets outside of you, because that's where you get yourself in trouble. And the same thing with punt team. You first got to hold up at the line of scrimmage to make sure the ball is kicked before you turn and run to perform any type of return. So I would expect Indiana on punt this weekend, as much as they would probably don't want to, probably a lot of what we call punt safe. And that is where you're basically leaving your defense on the field. You're playing a structure, but you're not rushing to go after the punt. You're prepared for any type of fake. And if they do punt it, the return man, if he doesn't fair catch it, he's kind of on his own in that respect. So, yeah, everything with this team right now is they have nothing to lose and everything to gain, of course. I'm talking UCLA, that you always have to be alert of those type of things. I will say this, UCLA better be alert, because Indiana may be a team too looking to take a possession or two away from the Bruins. So, I don't necessarily think Cignetti is a big fake guy unless it's absolutely there on tape and they get the perfect look. I mean, most coaches, they'll call fakes that you do not know they're calling. And then the question becomes, why don't they fake it on a field goal? Why don't they fake it on a punt? Or, those type of questions. The reality of it is maybe they've called it for 9 games and they're not getting the look that they want. And that's what it takes. You got to get the look that you're anticipating to have to run a fake punt. And so sometimes you don't get it. And you do not want to just run it for the sake of running it. You want to run it when the percentages are in your favor in that respect. So it all depends a lot on that kind of aspect of things when you look at it. Let's go over here let's get off of that one. We did that one. Let's look at the Big Ten power rankings, kind of another metrics that's kind of put together. FPI, you look at all these different things that people put together. Indiana 1-2 with Oregon 3. And then you can kind of see where Illinois USC is right there in the middle of the pack, along with Michigan and Washington. We'll find out between Iowa and Minnesota this weekend as well. You can see where UCLA is right now 12th in the power rankings, ahead of Maryland, who they beat last weekend, and ahead of Penn State. So right now, that kind of gives you an idea of where people see the Big Ten Conference in the power ranking aspects, taking into account who one has played, who they've beaten, and everything else kind of wrapped into one. So Indiana, again, 2 in that poll as well for this year into week 9, and we'll see what happens after this week. Let's take a quick break here real quick. We're going to hear a little bit from Academy Sports as well as BetMGM. But we'll be right back with more Hoosier Tailgate right after these messages. Maybe not. We'll scratch that one, and I'll have to redo it.
If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code on3, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. 1. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code on3. 2. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. 3. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code on3 when you sign up. Make this college football season 1 for the history books. Make it legendary. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code on3 and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPNBY or text HOPNY 467369, New York. Call 1-800-NEXT STEP, Arizona, 1-800-327-5050, Massachusetts.
Welcome back to the Hoosier Tailgate here on thehoosier.com. I hit the wrong button, therefore you don't get what you're supposed to get until you hit the right button. So I was able to do that. Little bit of a fumble on my part. But let's jump into a little bit of this breakdown of these two teams this weekend. And let me get that off of there and take a look at this offense compared to each other and their defense compared to each other. As you see right here, this is Indiana offense compared to UCLA's offense. And you can see this is all games, so this is taking in every game UCLA has taken and played this year, not just the last 3, because that would skew the numbers. So you still have to be accountable for your overall record and statistics up through this point of the year. Indiana, again, has had some impressive numbers, almost 500 yards a game, but this UCLA team, not too shabby as well. 171 yards on the ground with 193 and 94 yards through the air. So they're gaining on that 400 number as an offense, 22.4 points a game at this time, at this point in time. And again, they've exceeded their averages over this 3-week win streak, in some cases doubling it from where they were. Indiana, for the most part, has been pretty steady, where they've kind of lost some serve is in their rushing yardage because they did not have a very good ground week against Michigan State. And, they were at one point during the year, as we had said before, had rushed for 4 straight weeks of over 300 yards rushing. Now, played a very good team in Oregon, which was their first game that didn't get it quite done on the ground in terms of that 300 barrier. And then Michigan State was quite good up front. So I'm hoping that this game here, while UCLA is better as a defense, Indiana needs to start getting back to an effective run game, especially where we're at right now in the season, where you're starting to get into colder weather or potential wet weather, that we have here in the Midwest. And at this point in time of the year, you've got to be efficient in your running game. So that'll be an important dynamic for this Indiana team to get back to it with Hemby, with Kalon Black, and even for that matter of fact, putting in the young pup and let him go run it around a little bit, because he's been very effective when he's gotten the opportunity to get on the field. But this week would be a great week for Indiana to get their run game rolling in the grand scheme of things. And hopefully they can do it against this UCLA team this Saturday. I'm kind of taking a peek at the weather to see kind of what's on tap for this weekend down in Bloomington. And, of course, they got a freeze warning tonight, of course, as everybody does in Indiana. It's going to be a cold evening, as they say, down near 32. And let's see here. Looks like it's not going to be too bad. Weather-wise, it's not going to be, 56 and mostly cloudy, a 6% chance of rain on Saturday, low of 43. So it'll probably be that 56-degree mark, 60-degree mark come Saturday there in Bloomington. So a little colder than what Indiana's been playing in, kind of similar to what they were at, I think, out in Oregon. So we'll see. Them Southern California boys may think that's real cold, though. So we'll see. But you can see right now with everything here. Let's see here. Todd, appreciate you coming. Appreciate it. As down there in the great state of Georgia. Appreciate you stopping by. Always welcome. Third down conversions, Indiana, they've slid a little bit here too. They're around the 60% mark, 55 overall, still not bad. UCLA, again, offensively, 40% through their number of games as well. And then Indiana, this is my concern. I know they've only gone for it on 11 times, but they're at 27%. They have not done well on fourth downs. And with that many chances, 11, you should have a good indicator of what you are capable on fourth down. Right now, the Hoosiers are not a good fourth down team. A year ago, they were. Why they're not this year, do not know. That's something that I hope that they're looking at and evaluating effectively, because that number is not great. When you look at UCLA, they've been quite good. They're 12 of 18, almost 70% of going on fourth down. And I guarantee you that's not all 4th and 1. So pretty big disparaging numbers there between Indiana and UCLA when it comes to fourth down. Red zone scores, Indiana 89%, almost 90% out of 37 attempts. UCLA, as you can see, they've gotten into that category better over the last 3 weeks. Now that they're almost 100%, got a really good kicker, and red zone scores is anything from a field goal to touchdown is what it calculates. And then red zone touchdowns, Indiana has done quite well when it comes to touchdowns in the red zone. 73%. You like for that to be a little closer to 80, to be honest with you, but not bad. They were quite well. That's an area too that they struggled on early in the year, where they were not very good when it came to scoring touchdowns. You can see UCLA, same number of attempts in the red zone here, where they've gotten only 61% in terms of, touchdowns. Here's a big number, points off of turnovers. And this has been a huge factor for Indiana over the last 2 seasons. Indiana has scored 34 points off an opponent's turnovers, meaning when the defense garners a takeaway, Indiana has scored 34 points this season, while UCLA has only gained 6 points off an opponent's turnover. And then time of possession, when you take everything into account for the year, Indiana still beats them on time of possession. If you want to break it down like Cignetti did, it was different because UCLA has gotten better over the last 3 weeks, where I think over the 3-week period, they were like 38 some odd percent, or 38 minutes in their time of possession numbers. But again, you can take that and turn it each way you want when it comes to those numbers. I always look at it from what has this group done as a whole. Let's see here about defensively speaking. Again, this is Indiana's defense against UCLA's defense thus far for the year. As we can see it, overall, Indiana 11.6 in scoring defense, very good. 27.4 for the Bruins. Rush defense, Indiana, again, one of the tops in the country at 85 yards. This is where UCLA's given up almost 200 on average on the ground, and that's where they struggled earlier on in the year. Indiana pass defense-wise, again, last week's game against Michigan State, where they gave up 293 yards. Let's hope it was just one of those days, because that number has crept up for them this year, and only right now 164 yards a game. UCLA about 180. And you can kind of see the total defense. Third down conversion rates. Their defense is giving up on their third down attempts of an opponent against UCLA's defense. They're getting that offense is getting 52% success rate against them. For Indiana, it's only 25%. Very good, Indiana's defense on third down. Fourth down, as you can see here, Indiana defensively, that's too high, because I'm guessing majority of those have been in that fourth and medium to short, although there's been a couple long ones in there. And you can see UCLA in some respects has struggled again on offense or defense there when it comes to fourth down conversions. Red zone scores 80% for Indiana, 81% for UCLA in terms of teams getting in the red zone and their percentage of getting the ball and points. This is where Indiana's been really good. red zone touchdowns. Indiana has only given up 2 touchdowns inside the red zone all year. Now, that's phenomenal. Where UCLA's given up 75%. Another key factor, and this is going to be huge for Saturday, Indiana, 26 sacks on the year for 168 yards to UCLA's only 6 sacks. Indiana has been well ahead there in that respect. And then turnover margin, Indiana's a +7 on the year, while UCLA is -1. That is another key factor in this game is the turnover margin, and Indiana has done quite well thus far. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah. On the other hand, yeah. As far as Indiana and faking and things like that, again, I don't necessarily think Sig is a big fake guy, but if it's punching you in the nose, you gotta exploit it, because you can't just, turn a blind eye to it. Yeah. Yeah, that again, Penn State, Maryland, Michigan State, 1 and 3 in that respect. So yeah, again, and that's probably why Indiana, they're with everything, is probably a 24.5 point favorite for Saturday's ball game, figuring that while UCLA has won 3 in a row, the opponents that they have played are like 1 and 4, 1 and 3 as in that 3-game stretch as well. So you got to take it, good and the bad and look at it. That's why it's okay to break it down in a 3-game stretch. I mean, I used to do that as well to see if there's anything showing up for a team, if they're doing well in a certain set of weeks versus, maybe the first set of games in the season. You do it for them because that's when the change occurred in the structure of their coaching staff. New interim head coach, two new coordinators. And it's not like the coordinators came in and threw out everything that they were doing. All they did is skinny it down some, and were able to structure things in what they saw their kids being able to do more effectively. So, I mean, that's kind of how I see it in that aspect of things. Okay, let's see here. Let's get back over to this real quick and take a look here before we jump into some film, hopefully here. Who are these cats that are coming in to Bloomington on Saturday? And this cat, again, is a heck of a ball player, 6'6", 215 pounds, throwing for about 194 a game. He's only threw 5 interceptions on the year. Came from Tennessee a year ago. He was #1 ranked overall player by On3 when he came out. He's a California boy. Career completion, 65%. 200, almost 3,000 yards and 21 TDs in career, and that is concluding this year. And right now at UCLA, a 14-6 1-loss record as their quarterback. So you can see he's a very, very good quarterback, highly rated, nationally thought of guy that on offense, that's where it all starts. You got to have a guy at the trigger point. You can say Indiana's success has been greatly impacted by who they've had at quarterback the last 2 years. Same thing with UCLA in that regard. They have a 3-headed monster at running back, similar to what Indiana has. Berger, big kid. He's a guy that he's transferred from Michigan State and before that Wisconsin. So he's three different place transfer, but he's at over 1,300 yards on the career, averages 4.4. He was initially a 4-star out of New Jersey when he was recruited to Michigan State. So again, big back, that's kind of a Roman Hemby type of back in that respect. This Thomas kid, he's also a transfer from Cal, so he will know Boyd and Fernando quite well. And right now, he's got 235 yards on the ground, but almost 800 yards career-wise over 20 games. 6.2 yards a carry, so that's not too bad. But this is his first year, 5'11", 195 type of back. And as is, they have another guy that's in the same mold of those two, but those are their two top backs. And then Woods is a guy that transferred in from Utah, where he did not play a year ago. He was redshirted there. He was at Idaho his first 2 seasons, and you can see his production there, over 2,000 yards. Redshirt junior that just came to UCLA this year. He's had some productivity. He's 31 yards on the ground. But again, that three-headed monster type of person. And those first 2 guys have been the prominent 2 guys as on the year at the running back position. Then on the outside, wide receiver wise, Gilmer, 6'2", 190, sophomore, pretty impressive kid, played as a true freshman. He had 345 yards a year ago, 11.1, four-star recruit. Right now, he almost surpassed last year's numbers in receptions, as well as average per catch and 2 TDs on the year. So this guy has a vertical threat to him, and he is producing at a clip better than he was a year ago. So he's a guy that Indiana is going to have to be very aware of, as they are on this kid too, who just came in from Central Florida. And 18 receptions on the year, 13.3 yards a catch, another vertical threat for them. Also, guys, they like to get the ball in and out of their hands, out in the quick areas. 3 touchdowns on the year. And those 2 guys have got some speed in that respect. So that is their predominant production on offense. Those guys for UCLA, led by Nico, who is a hell of a quarterback. On offense, John Vaughns, this is a kid that Indiana played against a year ago. He's also a baseball player there. 66 tackles on the year, 27 solos, 3 TFLs, 113 tackles in his career, 6'1", 225-pound kid. Good football player, does a lot of things on the field. He's quick, smart, and he can make plays in the open field, as is this Chisholm kid who transferred from Oregon State. As you can see now this year, 57 total, 30 solos, already a 1.5 tackles for losses. Good linebacker, guy that can stand in there and beat you up if needed. I would kind of compare him a little bit to Fisher in that respect. So good, smart linebacker. Was there a year ago, I believe, as well. And, he's got a career of 2 forced fumbles, quarterback hurry, 1 breakup. Good, solid defensive player for UCLA. Jones, this kid, if everybody remembers, he was at Michigan State last year. He was also at Indiana for a season back. That was Tom Allen's last year. And he lasted a season here, a season at Michigan State, and now he's out at UCLA. So I'm not quite sure what the issue is. He's an impressive figure at 6'5", 265. He's more of your sack guy. He's only got 14 total tackles, but he's a big, strong kid in that up front. And these are the type of guys that Indiana has had troubles with just because of that person's physicality versus IU's overall physicality up front. So there's some familiarity with guys that have been playing and Jones since he was here 2 years ago, but a good player. He was a good player at Michigan State a year ago. This young man came in from Navy. He's a quick twitch guy, but he's 6'4", 265. He already has 3 TFLs on the year, but he came from Navy where he had 10 total sacks and 17 TFLs and 2 forced fumbles. So this is a pretty headsy ball player that has done quite well for him off the edge. And he's a quick twitch guy, so he's not going to, he's kind of more linky than he is anything, but quick, fast, got some moves, but definitely some, that the tackles are going to have to go up against and prove themselves against him because he's pretty good, as is Bennett, who hasn't played a whole lot. He's one of those guys that I probably look at and see potential rather than productivity, because he checks all the boxes. 6'4", 250-pounder. He came from Michigan. He predominantly was a special teams player at Michigan. But you can see he's got 3 TFLs and a sack already. So he's a guy that they utilize in situational down and distant types. He's also got a block punt in his career when he was played at Michigan. So these are the guys that Indiana, in my opinion, will have to be aware of on both sides of the ball. These are the guys that have been their impact type of players. And that's not to say there's not more, because there are always good ball players. But these guys, in a lot of respects, check some boxes when I look at them as guys that you have to be accountable for in whatever scheme you're running, offensively or defensively. When you talk about game planning, when you talk about matchups, things of that nature, and who you want to go after and target and things of that and that type of scope of things. So again, I would say, and this comparison I get, this team, even though they've won 3 in a row, in a lot of ways reminds me of Michigan State. They've got talent. They got a good quarterback, as we saw with Aiden Childs a week ago. They got over the hump in the last 3 weeks with getting on the winning side after they lost 4 straight. And you can see that even during that losing period of 4 straight, they had the ability to win ball games. And it's not like they were playing world beaters either. I mean, one of their losses was to New Mexico at home. So, but I do think this team has a little bit of semblance to Michigan State overall. So, in that respect. Okay, let's switch over some tape real quick here so I can just kind of throw some stuff up and let you guys take a look at them in that respect. This is their game coming up here in a second. Okay. Let's get over here, you dummy. This was their game from this perspective against Penn State offensively. And Penn State will play, in some respects, a little bit of what UCLA does structure-wise. But the formations you're going to see from UCLA are a lot of the same ones that Indiana uses, and that's pretty much offenses of today. There's a lot of similarities. But what you got to watch here is UCLA's ability to plug things up and move a Penn State team that you would have thought was going to be really good. I mean, this is just, okay, one probably missed a tackle there by the right tackle who's tackling the linebacker here. That's a miss. But missed tackle, and it's a 6-yard gain. And things like in this game, you can see why Penn State has been a little bit crazy in with it, but you can kind of see what they like to do. A lot of RPOs with Nico. This was a true handoff and let them go type of thing. And again, nothing earth shattering in terms of what they like to do. They'll run some motion with stuff. Here's just a straight call it and rip it throw. And same thing you'll see Indiana do. They're just playing kind of a cover two over here, quarter coverage into the field. He's going to go ahead and take his shot down here based upon where that Mike linebacker's cheating, because he sees this guy, this guy cheating. You can see his eyes are looking that way, but he's seeing that guy, and he's going to set his feet and rip it back here. So you can see he's got some good velocity on his throw and a quick delivery, in that respect. This is one of their RPOs where they're going to run the bubble to the field, and he's going to hand it off, but he could throw it. And what he's getting a feel for is these backers kicking. So what happens here? It's a numbers game, remember? And right there is a heavy box. There's six in the box. You can run it there. But when they motion, these guys are going to bump out. And the next thing you're going to see here is when they get to before the snap, they've gone to a light box. There's only 5 in there because he has to honor the bubble, and they're able to run a counter right back up inside of it and get close to the first down. Then let's see here. Here's another RPO. This time, what they're running is what I call it. It's a kind of a sneak screen where this tight end's going to come out, run behind the line of scrimmage because these guys are going to go block. He's reading these 2 guys right here, that guy and that guy, they're coming. So he's going to pull the ball, boom, and just get rid of it. Look at 24, the guy that's coming off the edge. He has no clue who has the ball here, including 6. They don't know. And next thing you know, it's just a bad blocking on the perimeter. You got 2 guys going for the same guy. I mean, Jesus. And there's 2 other guys that are coming up tattooing him. Tight end was probably not too happy with that one. But you can see how they can get it rolling as an offense, and what he's done overall when it comes to it. Here's the situation. It's 3rd and 11, and they'll go to 5 wides, not uncommon. Okay. And Penn State just rushing 4, kind of playing that Tampa 2, or they're actually playing 3 deep, I guess, here, but they're getting depth and they're chasing guys because you can see the Mike is looking up number 2 and doubling him. But here's what Nico does good. And he's big and strong, and he can get down the field really well when it comes time to it. But he's got a lively arm in everything he does. Here's another big play where he drops it in on the outside here. This one he hits right in the hole. So, I mean, this cat, he's going to make some throws Saturday. It's not going to, Indiana they're going to have some throws against them, and you're just not going to be able to just shut this cat completely down when it comes to playing in that, aspect of things. Penn State, again, this can look junky at times because of what they do. This is an unbalanced set that they come out, but it'll give you a look at UCLA's structure. They're a 4-2-5 concept. And this is just an inside zone, and they rip it. And Penn State was never out of this game. They were in it all the way to the end. Although they're down 10, it was a 7-point ball game all the way to the end. So it wasn't like they blew them out. So here's another ghost play, and they're just throwing. He's just standing back there throwing slant routes against cover 2, which is a good look. They give it up their first down. I'm kind of surprised by them in this ball game, how it got away from them. And it was a lot of the defensive issues, because Aller really had a good day. So you can see there's guys open, and Indiana played against this structure a year ago when they went out there and did some of the same things with motions and things of that nature, and, got guys open, and they had, nice plays when it came to it, and they were able to run the ball effectively against them. So again, UCLA defensively, I think, has really just kind of structured it down so that they can play fast. But again, I mean, there's a big rip play there off of a quick deal. I do want to show you some of the junky stuff that can come at you with these guys when you look at it. That's not the one I want. It's 24-7 right now. Now they're going to heat him up, and they do a good job of collapsing it. So Penn State's going unbalanced again, and UCLA says, fine, we're just going to bring 6. And if you run it, we're going to have a hat for a hat. And, it's not going to be a good thing for you. I'm trying to think of another one, but that's kind of the gist of their offense and defensive structure and stuff. And I know I'm running out of time and again, talking too much about other stuff, but again, I do think they're a lot like Michigan State. They have an active defense. If they get you off schedule, you're going to see some junk that makes it very difficult, because they'll get in different fronts and they won't resemble any type of structure that you're accustomed to seeing in a football game. So that happens frequently when they get you off schedule. If you keep their defense on schedule and the offense has efficiency on first and second downs, then you can keep them in things and be pretty predictive on what you're going to get, utilizing motion at times to really affect their coverage. Because if they're in a coverage and you go in motion, they check out of it and get soft, which opens up passing lanes. So look for Indiana to implement some of that stuff this week and some of their game plan from a year ago against these guys, because it is a similar defense and offense that they faced to get last year. All right, quickly here, kind of the game objectives that I kind of throw together all the time with a team like this. Again, nothing over the hoop here, stay on schedule, first and second downs, efficiency, that's 4 or 5 yards per first or second down, get to third and medium or better. Like to see them to get to that magical 200 yards and 275 passing. I think if they can get almost to 500 yards, they're going to put points on the board. Again, explosive plays has been a good thing for Indiana this year. They had, I think, 8 last week against Michigan State. Again, the continuation of their aggressive and attacking play calling, where they player target their plays, meaning, how am I going to get the ball to Surratt? How am I going to get the ball to Coop? How am I going to get the ball to Williams? And then how does Hemby figure in all this? Because he's a factor in the passing game, as we have seen over the last couple of weeks. He's a dangerous guy on the perimeter, especially if they get him matched up against a linebacker. That's a win. But if Indiana can do that offensively, I think they can have a very good day at the office, put points on the board, and keep UCLA guessing. That's the one thing. Defensively speaking, they've got to keep in check in the passing game, keep them under 185, hold them to about 125 yards rushing. Let's not give Nico his green pasture to go just galloping out and away. So good eye discipline when it comes to that, and defeating the blocks at the line of scrimmage with Indiana's defensive front, because I do think that's an advantage for Indiana. Again, defense, win the third down money downs. They've been pretty good on it. They've let in some things keep them on the field when they should get off, and that's got to get them to a point where they're not getting into fourth down, a team just using 4 downs to get first downs. I mean, Indiana's got to do a better job at that point in the third down to keep them out of that 4th and short. Win the turnover battle again. That's kind of be expected. Now, last game, they didn't have any. Neither team turned it over. And UCLA right now is -1 on the year, and they've put the ball on the ground, and Nico's thrown 5 picks. So Saturday could be a day that this IU defense gets some takeaways and get them off schedule. If they, against Penn State, against Michigan State, the one thing that stood out in those games when I watched them, they never got them off schedule. UCLA was able to stay on schedule, and when they got them in a bad situation, Nico either had a great throw or he had a scramble that went for 20, 30, 40, 50 yards on the day. So that's the one thing, is you got to get them off schedule. This one I got the red alert by, because that's going to be the big thing for Saturday. Do they spy him? Did they keep somebody on him by spying him at times to keep him in the pocket? Good eye discipline, and not let this cat get out on the perimeter and run. Keep him inside the pocket. And then again, aggressive and attacking, good eye discipline on the day. And then lastly, special teams here, same old things. The field position in this game will be critical. You've got to force UCLA to drive the long field. You got to make them earn every point that they get. Be aware, have awareness on punt and field goal situations, because they have faked it, and clear all your kickoff. I would just tell them, you expect up front an onside kick. There's no sense of retreating back anyway, because 9 out of 10 kicks go in the end zone, and no one's returning them nowadays anyway. So those front guys should never be leaving early. And that's usually when you get in trouble. IU like to get them back to scoring or setting up score via a block punt or a big return by Boyd. Those are going to be all key components for Saturday. As always, it's very standard and simple football when it comes down to it. It's the KISS principle in a lot of ways. Do what you do best and keep away things that you do not handle well, and force UCLA into being a one-dimensional, one hand tied behind their back offense, because the last 3 weeks they've had their full complement of offense because of who they played, and their offense has been successful the last 3 weeks. Well, hey, I appreciate you guys joining me. I'm sorry I went a little bit over again tonight, and I got to do better on that, but I get rambling, and I'm sorry. But again, I appreciate you guys stopping by, being a part of the tailgate tonight. Again, we'll be back with you on Monday. We will probably have a return of our post-game breakdown of this game with Jim Coyle and I. Just stay tuned for that information. But until Monday night, we'll catch you again here, all on the Hoosier Tailgate here on thehoosier.com. Have a great weekend. Good night, everybody.